Women's soccer fans, Herc, woke up to some shocking news. Well, on the West Coast, they woke up to some shocking news earlier today as Alex Morgan announced her retirement, effective almost immediately. She's got one more game on Sunday, San Diego Wave hosting the North Carolina Courage. The 35-year-old calling it quits after that. Here's Morgan's announcement via social media.
I'm going to get to the point quickly. I'm retiring. And I have so much clarity about this decision, and I'm so happy to be able to finally tell you. It has been a long time coming, and this decision wasn't easy. But at the beginning of 2024, I felt in my heart and soul that this was the last season that I would play soccer. Charlie came up to me the other day and said that when she grows up, she wants to be a soccer player. And it just made me immensely proud. Not because I wish for her to become a soccer player when she grows up, but because a pathway exists that even a 4-year-old can see now. We're changing lives, and the impact we have on the next generation is irreversible. I'm proud in the hand I had in making that happen, in pushing the game forward, in leaving it in a place that I'm so happy and proud of. Charlie's gonna be a big sister. I am pregnant. And as unexpected as this came, we are so overjoyed. I just want to thank the fans for always supporting us, for always just using what we're saying and making it magnified.
All right, so congratulations in order then, not just on the career, but on the expanding family for Alex Morgan and company. Of course, the 2 World Cups highlight a career of accomplishments in 2015 and 2019, won Olympic gold in 2012, 5th all-time on your U.S. top scorer list. And what a run, by the way. Made her debut way back in 2010 and was a starter up until the springtime of this year. For more on Alex Morgan and her legacy and career that was, we welcome into the show our good friend and colleague Jeff Kassouf. You can read from him over at ESPN.com, right here at ESPN Plus as well. Jeff, just curious about your initial reaction. I have to admit, of course, when you find out that she's pregnant, it's not a surprise that she's going to walk off September 8th this weekend, just one more game. But I was a little bit sad because if there's one player who not just deserves a kind of nationwide tour to say farewell, but could also fill stadiums literally across the country, it's Alex Morgan. So it does feel a little bit abrupt, but what was your initial reaction when you first heard the news this morning?
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, congratulations to her and Servando, obviously, on unexpected expansion of the family. Yeah, abrupt, I think, is the right term. I mean, I don't think that this decision in a vacuum, when you look at, okay, dropped from the Olympic team, obviously had to be disappointing at 35, has put in 15 years essentially at this level, at the international level. I don't think that the decision itself is surprising, but yeah, the timing to be 3 days out from what will be the final game, to have to your point, no real send-off or any extended version of it. I think that was it's surprising. I think, it'll be a little bit melancholy for fans, perhaps, to only have one shot, and many of whom are not going to get across the country, possibly, right? So, yeah, I think abrupt is the right term there for what, for the news. I don't think surprising in a vacuum, but, you would have at least thought or maybe hoped that, you'd see her play out the season and maybe maybe have a little bit more time to have that send-off.
Alex Morgan, one of the most recognizable female athletes in the world, a tremendous career spanning over 14 years with the national team. I want to ask you about her legacy, but I want you to specifically keep it on the field, Jeff. Talk to me about her overall legacy.
Well, look, 123 goals, that's fifth on the U.S. all-time list, right? You look at who's in front of her. Abby Wambach, who at one point was the all-time world leading scorer, Mia Hamm, Carly Lloyd, Christine Lilly. So you look at that group, and obviously you are among the greats, right? And I think the thing that stands out to me about Alex Morgan is we can look at those numbers. I think they speak for themselves in many ways. There's obviously the club game as well, which I think form ebbed and flowed for her. I mean, obviously winning an inaugural NWSL title, won a WPF title, won a Golden Boot a couple years back. But, you know, when I look at her game overall, she entered this space in 2010 as kind of the, you know, the baby horse nickname, right? The turn and burn striker who's going to get in behind. And, you know, that might not necessarily work for a long career as maybe the legs age. And certainly we've seen the global game change drastically, the landscape of how the game is played. So what we've seen from her at, I think, a high level and why she's been so successful is she's gone from that player who gets in behind defenses as her teammates lump it forward to a player who I think in you know, this is going to sound ironic, but in many ways was underappreciated in what she did in the last, call it 5-6 years of being a back to goal forward who took a beating. I think of that Spain round of 16 game in 2019 as a perfect example. A forward who would draw out defenders, take a beating, get fouled, and allow her teammates to have more open channels and create things around her. So I think, you know, you have those goals that are that statistical representation. Then you have the evolution of her as a forward, which I think has been slightly underappreciated, frankly, in terms of how she's evolved her game.
Boy, I remember the dupla, the duo of her and Abby Wambach, you know, 2011, 2012, around that era. That duo was about as good as you've seen as far as a striking pair ever in the women's game. Jeff, what about off the field? Because, you know, obviously when we talk about players for the U.S. women's national team, a lot of them have kind of an off-field component to their legacy. But early on in Alex Morgan's career, I feel like that wasn't so much of a focus. It seemed like she found her voice later in her career and was really involved in some massive movements within the women's game. We can talk about equal pay. We can talk about the CBA that was just done with the NWSL. We can talk about the abuse scandal in 2021 and kind of how the league rebuilt out of that. Alex Morgan was very centrally involved in that. So I feel like as amazing as the on-field accomplishments are, this is one of those rare cases when you can say the off-field is just as important, if not more, for a player that won 2 World Cups.
Yeah, I mean, I think that cements her legacy as a unique one and an incredible one, really, because all of those things you mentioned, right? The equal pay fight being a central figure in bringing to light the revelations and allegations against Paul Riley and everything that came from that, and in the safer space that we are now as a sport and a league. You know, I think you look at all that, and what stands out to me is, you're right, Sebi. I think, you know, early days, and let's remember, right? She burst onto the scene at 20, 21 years old. Even at that time, uncapped. People are talking about her as the next Mia Hamm. I mean, that comes with ridiculous pressure, right? And then obviously the platform from there. And I think maybe it took some time, as maybe you'd expect any person to kind of evolve and mature. And, you know, as that took place, as the years went on, I think she really recognized the scale of her platform, maybe the level of her celebrity, which was one that, you know, like Ham in a way, in a different generation, transcended sport. She wasn't somebody that was just recognizable within women's soccer or soccer. She was globally recognizable to just about anybody. And, you know, with that responsibility, she took it upon herself to use that as an ally more than an individual in many cases, and use that in a way to positively affect change, which was, you know, through the equal pay fight, through bettering the league, and actually taking action in it too. I mean, you look at the CBA that just got ratified, the next CBA, the new CBA for NWSL, and you know, she's listed on a bargaining committee among many, right? But, you know, it wasn't terribly long ago. I mean, the start of this league, right, where the league was somewhat fairly considered an afterthought for a lot of U.S. players. They were mostly paid by the U.S. Federation. You know, it's a drastic shift, obviously, to see the amount of real care for the league and want and desire to see it become a better place. And, I think that she really took that upon herself and recognized that when she speaks, people listen. And, whether that was the case of getting bad actors out of the league or just fighting for more basic, better changes in the league or the national team, there was a clear recognition that power could be used for the collective.
You mentioned she transcended sport. I mean, Alex Morgan has her own Barbie. It's incredible how much she has transcended sport. I think of Alex Morgan. I think about the great moments she's had. So many iconic moments. The 2019 semifinal goal she scores against England. The tea celebration. I'm curious, Jeff. What's your favorite memory of Alex Morgan?
Yeah, look, the U.S. women's national team, I think, is winning World Cups is what it comes down to, right? Olympics are I hate to call them secondary, but that's the World Cup is the big one. So I go to an Olympic moment like that 2012 Olympic semifinal, which was really the start of her career, really her breakout year, a year that she put up incredible numbers alongside Abby Wambach. As you said earlier, Sebi, that 4-3 victory over Canada, she scores the extra time game winner, 123rd minute. Back in the States here, you had Arlo White screaming, Alex Morgan, it's in. I mean, it was just this, I think still, I'll put arguably in there to not be too controversial, but the greatest and most entertaining game played and that I've ever seen or covered. And she scores the game winner in that as a young forward who's still, already famous, but up and coming to a degree. I mean, that game, that moment, I think is, there's the tea celebration, as you said, Herc, and everything, a lot of World Cups and a lot of moments in between. But that 2012 semifinal goal, 123rd minute, for me is unforgettable.
Of course, makes a World Cup team after becoming a mom as well. An incredible achievement there. One of the things I find interesting about Alex Morgan, Jeff, is that she's the last, effectively, of that generation, right? The most celebrated generation in American women's soccer is obviously the 99ers. But maybe the most important, you could argue, was the team that got this program back on top, to win it in 2015, to win it in 2019. She is the central figure for me in all of that. That said, what do you think the scenes will be like on Sunday? As you mentioned, it's kind of catching people spur of the moment. Maybe they're not ready. But this is a massive superstar, and San Diego knows how to kind of do these farewell games. And by the way, it's not a bad place to visit if you've got to make a plan for a trip in a hurry. I could just see this being chaotic, amazing, maybe something, Jeff, we've never seen before in American women's soccer. I guess that's why I'm so bummed out there's not more time to build up to it.
Yeah, I mean, I share that. I think, maybe us here on this show, right? I mean, with more than 3 days notice, maybe we get out there, among many others in the country, right? So obviously that's a deeply personal decision and we understand the reasons for it. But yeah, I think we heard from the San Diego Wave only a few hours after this announcement that the lower bowl was sold out. I think we can expect it's a pretty full house there typically anyway, but yeah, I think it's to your point. I mean, it's interesting, right? You look at that generation and Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe, Carly Lloyd, I think several, Becky Sauerbrunn, obviously. You can point to a lot of folks, but Morgan central to that. This was the site less than a year ago, San Diego, the NWSL Championship, where Ali Krieger, our friend, and Megan Rapinoe, who were both playing their last game in this stadium less than a year ago. So, I guess we have some precedent for that of how San Diego might turn out. But I don't know. I think it is something that is so abrupt that people, including Alex Morgan, I'm sure, from what we saw in that video, are probably still processing it, probably still will be on Sunday. And I think U.S. Soccer mentioned there'll be some kind of a farewell, San Diego said they will do a farewell as well later in the season. But in terms of seeing her on the field, I think it's hard to take a guess at what it will look like. I mean, we've seen legends retire before too, but I think it's going to be an emotional scene at minimum on Sunday in San Diego.
Jeff, Seb, I've given Landon Donovan a lot of grief over how he was put in that position, but I can think of no better individual to be there to kind of talk to Alex as she's doing a send-off as the face of women's soccer in this country for many years than Landon Donovan, who went through this very precise thing maybe a few times, but at least he knows what it's about.
Yeah, there you go. He did have the awkward send-off, though. Hopefully no awkward send-offs this weekend for Alex Morgan. There he is, Jeff Kassouf. Never an awkward send-off on Futbol Americas. You can read his fine work again here on ESPN, plus over on the website, ESPN.com.